Welcome, everybody, to the 1UpXP Show podcast. Today, we are joined by Kaitlyn Roose. She is the Esports Director as well as the head coach there at Michigan Tech. We're going to dive into a lot of esports. We're going to talk into Michigan Tech, and we're going to get the background on Kaitlyn. So let's go.
Hopefully I can be entertaining.
Okay, let's go. Man, I just love that intro. It's just so good. And we welcome in Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Did you hear it that time?
I did not,
Okay.
unfortunately, but that's okay because I'm looking forward to hearing it when it comes up.
Yeah, hopefully you do. I did have everything muted. I hope I didn't cut it out. Well, you'll hear it regardless. We'll put it in afterward. But thank you for joining me. It is an amazing opportunity to have you on the show. Thank you for everything that we're looking to accomplish here. Obviously, we're trying to spread esports to good. And one great way to show parents and kids is obviously programs like yours are here in many different fashions to give the kids the support and background of esports in not just video games, but broadcasting as well as pretty much everything under the sun. So we welcome you in. Let's start with you, okay? You gaming, your background. Give it to me straight. Where did it start, and how did you end up at Michigan Tech?
Yeah, good question. So I'll start from the very beginning. I was born with a Nintendo 64 controller. The doctors didn't know where it came from. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I was like, wow,
no.
I'm impressed.
No, no. It's the first thing I've ever seen. No. So I went over to my neighbor's house a couple times and she had an N64 and we started playing and then I got really into it. I asked for one for Christmas and I showed it to my brother who is autistic. Special needs. And he is 2 years younger than me. So we were probably, like 6 or 7 maybe at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can get very into something when it's very different and unique and
Right.
It has a lot of kind of routineness to it. So he got very attached to it, and that was a way that we were able to both bond and communicate. And me, as a kid, if any of you out there, anybody that has special needs, it can be a very unique experience and can be really challenging to learn how to communicate, to learn how to, understand emotion, maybe what they're struggling with, how to explain things to them, how to ask questions, how to answer questions, things like that. So we just bonded over, Mario 64, Mario Party, Mario Golf, Smash, all of those games. And when he was a little bit older and could better understand and be able to learn the controls, he dove right in, and we have been gaming together ever since. Obviously I can't game with him right now, he's downstate. But so that was kind of my childhood with gaming. When I got into college, I went to Gannon University and I wanted an Xbox 360. And I said, I only want the R2-D2 Xbox 360 with the C3PO controller, because when you turn it on, it makes the R2-D2 noise. And it's the greatest thing ever. So my parents were kind enough to get me that one. And I played Halo 4 for, I don't know, the first year or so. And then I got into League of Legends. Now, any of you League of Legends fans out there, I'm really sorry. Plug your ears because this is so bad. I had a MacBook Pro in college and I played League of Legends on my MacBook with a trackpad. I did not use a mouse for like 6 months.
Hey, listen, you got to start somewhere, and you started the hard way. It's fine.
It was very challenging. I don't even ask me how good I was. I was pretty decent. I played Lux. So I mean, everybody loves Lux. And then a couple of my friends at the time were like, dude, you'd need a mouse. I'm like, really? This is mind blowing. So I got a mouse and then I started, getting a little bit more into it. So yeah, and then it kind of evolved from there. I played a lot of Xbox games, PlayStation, I got into like Dark Souls. And then when I got my first computer, when I went to grad school,
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of Steam until I was like a senior in college for some reason. Don't ask me how that happened,
Your
but
world
people were,
opens up hugely.
it was crazy. And I got into, Divinity, Original Sin, some RPGs like that. Got recommendations from a bunch of other people. So,
Nice.
yeah, played a bunch of different games. And then I play Heroes of the Storm, which is
Yep.
Blizzard's MOBA, which is similar to League of Legends, plays very different, or Dota for those of you who were more OG MOBAs, or Smite. So yeah, Heroes of the Storm, and then I played Overwatch. I did my master's thesis on Overwatch, studying eye tracking and decision making in players. And then I'm finishing up my dissertation on Overwatch, Civ 5, and League of Legends. So studying, again, decision making and their eye tracking patterns. So that's been really cool. So basically, I've been a gamer. I've studied games. I've also been involved in competitive scenes with my Heroes of the Storm team as an amateur league. And then obviously now when I got this job 2 years ago. So I've been around games for a little bit.
She has it all tucked away. She has so much background in games, and a lot of it started as, more of a emotional or memory response, if you will, which is huge. I think a lot of people tend to, or have video games impact them that way. For me as a kid, it was very emotional, very memorable thing, because I hooked it up. I played it at the age of 2, 3, 4, and you play games like Mario. You beat Mario. You play Pac-Man, or any of these Nintendo games that I'm already starting, Contra, anything that I'm blanking on right now. But there is something to it that is always tied to that, just that warm, fuzzy moment. And video games, especially nowadays, it just goes back to something good. And it started with something that you and your brother bonded over, and that you could really share in maybe, not such an easier way, if you will, which is awesome to hear. And look where it has led. Those avenues are crazy. I mean, absolutely insane. But I do remember when that R2D2 360 went on sale at GameStop. I was like, oh man, because side story. Here's my 360 story. Was the PS3 was scheduled to come out with the Xbox 360. I was a PlayStation kid at the time. I had a PS2. PlayStation 3 got delayed a year, and I was like, oh man, I want a new console. And the 360 came out, but you couldn't find it anywhere, as per usual with any new console. I bought mine from Japan, not knowing that, it'd be region locked or whatever, but it was also the same price. You got an extra controller. I was like, oh, cool, because they were trying to get the 360 in Japan. Fast forward, it gets to me, and I have no problems for the first 2 years. Rock Band comes out. It is the first region locked game for the Xbox, and I was sorely upset because I had a Japanese Xbox that would not play Rock Band, but we found a way around it, because then 360s were a little more available than they were at the time.
There you go.
So
there you go.
Let's talk about Michigan Tech. Yeah, you said you started the program there 2 years ago. You were the first public university in Michigan with an esports program, correct?
Yep.
And let's talk about some of the achievements for Michigan Tech. So let's talk about some of the game achievements, but not only that, but some of the stuff you have in the background with achievements, such as maybe some broadcasting and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have a whole sheet
dedicated
to our last year for achievement. So very, very proud of our team. So we field 4 games. So last year was our first year that we had competition. So we fielded Overwatch, Counter-Strike, Rocket League, and League of Legends.
Nice.
So our Overwatch team, who is coached by Will Horan, who is an awesome coach. He has coached contenders teams before.
Nice.
Very brilliant coach, very good with the players. The Overwatch team won the first ever Michigan Esports Conference.
Nice.
For Overwatch. So essentially a bunch of Michigan schools came together. We made a conference, and several of us are in the GLIAC, which is our athletic conference that we're a part of for Michigan Tech. And so we were the first Overwatch champs. So that was really good.
That's huge.
And then NACE, which several games participated in. We were second in group stage. We were 10-2 overall, which is really good. And we made playoffs.
And that is,
I think we made a couple of rounds.
And that is North American Collegiate Esports?
Yes.
Is that what it's called?
It's National Association for Collegiate Esports. Yes.
Got you. That's what a lot of you might hear a lot of coaches reference NACE. That's kind of like a conference, if you will, or a division that they have set up within esports, if I'm not mistaken, because there is no governing body like the NCAA as of right now, which might change, but they have kind of like certain conferences or divisions, if you will, that are set up separately that schools partake in. So that is what NACE stands for.
They're made of primarily NA teams, which is why I said yes to that NA part. But we do have many teams from Canada.
Yep.
Our lovely Canadian friends that are a part of it as well. So but yes, so it's primarily housed within NA, but
correct. And it's great. I love those. Yeah. So let's talk the games. You mentioned some of them, the games that you focus on. Are there more that you're looking to expand in, or is there, like, if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm really good at Fortnite," would you be able to maybe carry a Fortnite kid for something?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that are considered when choosing a game,
right?
And every school is very different, but a lot of us have very similar decision points. For us, it's collegiate support. So leagues need to be run well. They need to be well structured. They need to be well organized.
Correct.
I can't tell you with the club team back before we had a varsity program, how poorly some of the leagues were run. And that's not necessarily to the fault of the org. It's just with esports being so new, no one kind of knows exactly maybe the best format or how to best organize or set of rules or whatever.
Right.
So people are still learning. But with that being said, having well-established and well-run leagues is really important. CRL, Collegiate Rocket League, is one of the best and most well-run, and actually one of our alumni and one of the co-founders of the club and individuals, Ben Rumney, who helped also help launch the varsity program on a student side, is now working for them and is an administrator there.
That's awesome.
So he's that whole group is very, so that's one example of a league that is very well run.
Right.
And so having those also set of standards for the students, a league that says you have to be academically, you have to be in good standing academically with your institution, or you have to be verified as a student, or those things that recognize that these are students also and not just players, is really important. So that's one thing. The second thing, obviously, popularity. Games come and go.
Correct.
We saw Pokemon Go craze. That was just, not that Pokemon Go is dead right now.
No,
it's still
definitely
popular
not what it
around.
was. Yeah.
Correct. And so people tend to latch on the initial. Valorant's a good example. Valorant blew up when it first launched, and it's kind of calmed down a little bit, but the Valorant scene is still very much developing. And until it has developed more fully, which may be as early as next year, we don't currently have, and probably won't have until possibly next year, a Valorant team.
Okay.
So that's one example. And then the last thing would be competition feasibility. So battle royales are really
very
difficult.
Yeah.
So for me, personally, and I know other coaches share this, is when you play somebody in Overwatch or Rocket League or any of these other games, and you beat them,
Right.
We can say we beat Northwood or Boise State or whoever.
Right.
Like, at that moment, we were better than that team, right? Because we beat them.
Right.
Whereas in battle royales, because of the amount of
RNG,
and elements that there are too many elements that are out of the player's control.
Yep.
To truly determine whether or not a team is better than the other, or a player is better than the other. Now everyone argues about Hearthstone, and I won't get into schematics about Hearthstone, but to a certain degree, there's autonomy in terms of what you put in your deck.
Right, exactly.
And so all of those things. So for battle royales, it is probably unlikely. Now that doesn't mean that if you're a Fortnite player that you can't compete being a Michigan Tech student, if you did want to come to Michigan Tech.
Right.
Our club team, I think they have 8 or 9 games. And so they may want to field a Fortnite squad.
Right.
So you could come here and play on the club team and maybe be a part of the varsity team as a staff member or something if you wanted to, or just be a fan.
Right.
And that's totally fine as well. Just because your game isn't on the varsity level doesn't mean you as somebody that's going into a university can't compete representing your school. So keep that in mind. Don't be discouraged if your school doesn't have the game you want. If you want to go there and you want a scholarship and you want to be a varsity athlete, that's a little bit of a different story. But if you just want to compete, keep that in mind. So I did want to shout out really quick before I forgot our Counter-Strike team as NACE national champions.
Ooh.
So yes, our Counter-Strike team, awesome. We were spring champs.
Nailed
and
it.
At one point within the I think 2 or 3 leagues that we were in, we were like 40-1, like 42-1 at one point. Our Counter-Strike team's kind of good.
I'd say so.
I will shout out Michigan in general because we have several very good Counter-Strike teams. In Michigan. So, and I'm sure you might be interviewing some coaches or may have already. So shout out to Michigan for having some of the best Counter-Strike teams.
It's Michigan in general that I've noticed. We just have a lot of good teams in general. It's like an esports hub. And
I think I know why. We look like a mitten, which is like kind of like where you put your, where you put your hands, and gamers are,
using your hands.
We're superior.
So that's what it is.
Fast fingers. So.
But no, you're exactly correct, because I've always had the same issue when I was a part of Such as Show X. We had an H1Z1 pro team, but it was kind of the opening of the Battle Royale, if you will, because nobody had really gotten Battle Royale to console yet, and Battle Royales on PC were just starting to take off because this was a great concept. But when you take it or want to take it to the pro level, it is just so hard to do. One, if you're going to drop in with 100 people, you need 100 computers. Two, that is not cheap. And three, the RNG is not easy to go by because, and if somebody's listening right now, what do you mean by RNG? It means a random number generator. So it means that loot that drops in those specific spots is not always going to be the same. It's a random number generating the loot. So the RNG, as we call it, isn't always going to be the same. So if you go to the same house, there's going to be a chest there or some loot or ground loot, but it's not always going to be the same value. It could be common, uncommon, so on and so forth. So some guy drops in, he could find the best gun just randomly and have an advantage already. So that's not technically skill, that is RNG. So that is one reason why Battle Royales are tough. And that maybe their company just doesn't care about them either. Warzone, I'm looking at you.
Throwing out names.
I will fire until they care about their audience. They just don't care. But that is not here nor there. This is for a different podcast. Let's talk about the goals for Michigan Tech. Obviously, a lot of schools have goals. Student athlete, you're a student first, then you're an athlete. Esports in general, what are your goals here at Michigan Tech for, let's say, the next 5 years?
Oh, yeah, that's a toughie. So this upcoming year, we're adding Rainbow Six Siege and Super Smash Ultimate.
Nice.
So with the addition of those teams, obviously, players come in. So one goal is to have, for me personally, is to have 75 within the next couple of years, 75 players within the next couple of years. So that would obviously require an additional a couple games or a secondary roster. Because our Counter-Strike team is so successful, we might look to have a secondary team there. So that could also be a part of it. So I would say having 75 to 100 in the next 3 to 5 years who are players, and then having 20 to 30 staff, and that would include managers, casters, analysts, any other support staff, assistant coaches, coaches, any other positions like that, production staff, media staff, which we have a great team of. So overall, I would say our roster, and I say full roster, meaning including players and non-players, about 1 to 150 within the next 3 to 5 years. So that's roster wide. Academically, which is obviously very important. Our student athlete GPA within tech for on average is a 3.5, and we're a STEM school where we primarily have engineers, biomed, computer science, all of these, and non-STEM too. We have an awesome business program as well, as one example. So that is a really important benchmark for us as a university. So for our esports team, I'd like to have a 3.3 on average this year, GPA, which we had just over a 3.0 last year amongst the pandemic, which is good. I definitely think students everywhere struggled with it, especially at our school being so hands-on. So I would say a 3.3 GPA, which would be really good for us. And then we want some national champions. I mean, we want to be national champions again. I mean, our Counter-Strike, we could go back to back. They're actually also competing in ESEA main right now. So that would be awesome if they were able to win that. And our Rainbow Six team actually made it to the finals of, I believe it was CR6, if I'm not mistaken, which was the league that they were competing in last year. And they made it to basically the grand finals against a D, I don't remember who it was, a D1 school.
Was it Purdue?
Oh man, it might have been. I'm not sure.
Purdue usually has a pretty good program in our state.
It was a big school. Yeah. And we were, the little guys coming in, Michigan Tech. Everyone's like, who's Michigan Tech?
Yeah. I get that a lot, but then I always say, but they have a really good hockey team.
We do. We definitely do. Well, it's interesting you say that, because that's obviously as our D1 sport. And arguably esports is, because there's no divisions, we technically are D1 as well in esports. But I mean, we have so many good athletic programs. So we want to, as esports, establish ourselves as, hey, we're new to tech as a varsity sport. Like we can prove our merit here. So that's definitely winning some national championships that'd be awesome. A good indicator.
And if you do that, you got to get a banner and you got to hang it somewhere on campus.
Oh, don't you worry. We're working on banners. All our guys from the Counter-Strike team get championship rings and rings. So that'll be awesome.
That's cool.
We have a cool trophy. Check out the drone footage on our Twitter. If you have not, you'll get to see the trophy. If you want to know what a Counter-Strike trophy or a championship trophy looks like,
it's pretty massive.
It really is. It's really really heavy box to open up.
Their Twitter is down below her. If you look, if you're watching right now and view it. The MTU Esports, at MTU Esports, and then also their Twitch will be up and running at the same name. But those trophies are no joke. I've seen some of them, and they're quite ridiculous. But let's get into the meat portion of the podcast. We have some questions here. We kind of already went over the first question, so we're going to jump that one. But let's talk about practice. Practice. What does a typical practice session look like? So for you and I being traditional athletes, practice meant you'd go to the gym or you'd go to the field. You'd practice for 2-3 hours, work out during the week as well, maybe watch some video, and then, that's our practice. But what does an esports practice session look like with the kids?
Exactly just that, to be completely honest with you. They practice depending on what game it is. So, for example, our Counter-Strike team tends to practice in longer blocks.
Okay.
So 3 to 4 hours, but fewer days a week.
Right.
So practice could range from 3 to 5 days a week. Our limit, because we follow NCAA regulations, which is similar to a lot of other coaches, I'm sure you guys might hear the same thing.
Yeah.
Even though we're not an NCAA sport, we follow them. So 20 hours a week of sanctioned activity. So they never go over that. So that includes like games, practices, VOD reviews, any required team activities, things like that.
But that's not including time off on their own playing video games.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm not essentially going over to their dorm room, banging on the door at 3 a.m. saying, I know you're playing Counter-Strike, like stop it. Now we're and we can talk about this potentially later, but essentially if their academics aren't suffering, if they're mentally and physically taking good care of themselves and in good spots, and they have good relationships with their teammates and other players, they can do what they want with their own time, assuming that it is healthy.
Because they're technically not legal. At practice. It's just, you just don't want them to, mentally drain themselves, physically drain themselves. You don't want them to slack on schoolwork. but you're not going to stop a gamer from gaming outside of practice. That's just
correct.
It's like the same thing when we were in practice. Obviously, there's no way of stopping us researching or doing things to get better at what we were doing. That's just not going to happen. But obviously, when you're at practice, this is your practice time.
Yep. And then that's where our teams have done really well. Our Counter-Strike team, especially you come to practice, if it's at 6, if it's 6 to 9, at 6, like your mind is focused. You are at practice until 9 p.m. And then after that, you can kind of, take a step back, and that's fine. Sometimes they would, maybe do an extra VOD review or two. They would VOD review, which is essentially a video review. So when your coach, traditional sports, they do it a lot. You watch the other team, maybe you watch your own team, and your coach kind of gives you a critique. Typically it's done in that fashion for esports or for scouting.
Right.
This team tends to do this, or studying maybe a pro team saying, okay, this is what they do on this map, or this is how they behave in this way. So those are very common as well. And then our players work out twice a week at least. And we have a trainer that works with them. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
that's great. And actually most of them work out 3 to 5 days a week outside of that time anyway. So
now without, I don't know if you'd know it, but do you know what like some of the workouts would look like or what they do?
Yeah.
Cardio, I'm assuming. And
yep. A lot of it is focused on, a section of the body per, 1 to 2 sections per day. And then some cardio. So typically it's, rapid sets.
Right.
I think it might be till failure, or maybe like 2 sets of, whatever it is for that body part, squats,
bench,
deadlifts, bench, like anything you'd possibly imagine. I know some people are like, oh, what do you do? Like, wrist stuff. Like I get it, but
do you
stretch
actually, your fingers?
But if you sit in a chair, any of you that sit in an office chair and you don't have good posture, your back, your upper back, your lower back, your abs, even your thighs, shoulders, like all of these things are a part of
your chair.
Sitting or working or doing anything. So, and mental fitness is directly tied to, physical fitness is directly tied to mental fitness, as well as gaming performance, which is why a lot of pros work out every day. So that's
the other thing is, if you just feel good, you're going to be better off. I mean, you feel good, you're going to play good. I mean, if you feel not well, you're not going to play well. I mean, you just want to feel better. And working out is going to make you feel better. Yeah, you might be sore, but guess what? You're not going to play sore.
Right.
But you will play way better. I mean, being healthy is going to result in better results at whatever you're doing. So, I mean, obviously in video games, if you feel better, I always put it in the phrase, look good, feel good. It's essentially what it is. Look good,
feel good, do good.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So, Michigan Tech has the student athletes, and we kind of hit on this a little bit, but what responsibilities do they have at Tech? Obviously, with every student athlete, there's a certain amount of responsibility. You don't want to be that kid at the party that, I say it because I've seen it. Hockey players, baseball players, don't be that kid at that party. But obviously, what responsibilities come with being a student athlete there at Tech?
Yeah, I mean, they're held to higher standards than our general student population. They have a code of conduct that is, I'm pretty sure, accessible on our athletics website.
I'm sure it's about 1 million pages thick.
We're not drinking. We're not doing drugs, that aren't prescribed. We're following the law. We have an appropriate and, healthy social media presence. We're treating other people with respect, following our university values, as well as, your own values as, human beings, but, integrity and respect are big things. So representing, it's always, the name on the front is a lot more important than the name on the back. And that's, 100% true at Tech, and athletes are very visible at Tech. So they're always being watched. How they behave is how a student, may look up to as a role model. So outside of, being good at their sport, being good in the classroom, they're expected to be role models and a good representation of the university.
Correct.
So
and I mean, especially
in general.
Especially nowadays with college and now using your likeness, there's even more responsibility to go along with that. And it's not going to be long before esports athletes are going to have their likeness being used, if not already. So it's just going to come down the river hand in hand. And we talked about it earlier with your background in video gaming with your brother. But bonds and communication are, monstrous and key in esports, especially when you're centered around a team. But how do you see kids falling into that in esports? Especially, so I kind of bring this up with kids who may not be so much social and coming into a different kind of background, if you will. Like, whereas, if you're a social butterfly like myself, it's very easy to fit into the room. But if you're not very social, obviously it might be a little different. But how do you see the kids bonding and communicating there at Tech with esports?
Yeah, good question. I think this is true of a lot of schools who maybe have, STEM fields, and maybe something, communication maybe is a little bit of a struggle because they're so brilliant, and it can be difficult to communicate. But I think at the end of the day, having a common goal is having a common goal, common interests, and having that mutual willingness to, that open-mindedness to say, oh, this is how you think about the game, or this is how you see the game, asking questions. These are the types of students that come to Tech, these kids that want to solve difficult problems. And in games throw all of these things at you at once, and you have to respond very quickly, oftentimes under seconds. Like, the quarterback has, sometimes if you're Matthew Stafford, you have like 0.2 seconds in the pocket, but pre him not being at the Lions anymore. But point being is that there's a lot of decision making. And I think when people recognize that those are skills that other players and other people share, that kind of opens that communication channel. I actually taught a summer youth program class on psychology and games.
Oh, nice.
There were several kids who were very quiet. And then as soon as I opened the floor and said, what's your favorite game and why? Or explain to me, give me an example from your favorite game of this psychological concept of operant conditioning.
Right.
Hands were raised. They were all engaged. They were all ready. What makes your game meaningful? What makes your game fun? What's difficult about your game? What's great about the UI or things like that? They immediately start realizing that, oh, this is something that I can communicate effectively because I'm so passionate about it. And gamers are some of the most passionate people. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but passionate people in the world. And again, at the end of the day, I think the common interests, the common goals, and being able to say, we're really passionate about this. We want to win as a unit. And then they start slowly kind of breaking their walls down and becoming more comfortable with that. And a lot of kids maybe have, the stereotypical, I'm in the basement, I'm alone, I don't socialize. A lot of gamers aren't that, actually.
No.
So that stereotype, all of the stereotypes about gamers are just so wrong.
Very much
and that
so.
one especially. A lot of people are very oppressed because of the hobby. And what people don't realize is a lot of the skills transfer from gaming to real life. How many people have raid leader on there are a ton of people who have raid leader on their resume. Involves planning, it involves delegating, it involves giving clear instruction, managing people, managing time. Like doing all of these things that are very good skills to have in a specific job or career are what people are doing in games. So and I think a lot of those things are what allow people.
We've talked about that many times throughout many podcasts. I just don't think a lot of people grasp that is the games that you're playing, regardless of what game it is, has some aspect of everyday life. Like the decisions and communication, everything that you're going through to play that game, you might not know it at the time, but is going to benefit you down the road somewhere. Like the fact that a perfect example is when I'm playing Fortnite, I'm thinking 18 steps down the road about what am I going to do if I have to build, what am I going to do with this, or like Warzone, the same thing, or even if I'm playing Rocket League, I have to be 2 steps ahead of somebody. Now, somebody say, well, how does that translate to life? You're just wasting your game on video games. Well, think about it. When you go to work, you have to think about what you're going to be doing for your day. You just don't go to work and be like, well, I'm just going to take the day as it comes. No, you're planning your day out. Like you are literally stepping ahead. You have to plan 2 steps ahead for everything. Otherwise, your day is going to be ruined. And that's why we call Mondays, because nobody's really planned for it yet. And then the rest of the week comes, as you've planned it. So it goes hand in hand. People just do not see the building and the communication and the bonding that goes with everything in video games. But you'll see when all these kids start getting older and be like, man, that kid was prepared really well. He knows what he's doing. Guess what? That kid was a pro in League of Legends. Like, He knows what's up. So I agree 150% with you. Are there any scholarships or programs that the kids can receive that are tech?
Yes. Oh, yes. Scholarships. We have scholarships available. The average is probably, let's say, 3,000 to 5,000 per year.
That's a good
so
chunk,
that's a good
kids.
chunk.
Yeah.
We have a lot of our students are very, very strong academically when they come in.
Yep.
So they get academic money plus athletic money, and they're paying very little, if any. And so I'm going to reiterate this because I don't think anybody says this, and it's really irritating. You need to do well in school. If you want to go to college, you need to do well in school. If you want to be in esports or be a varsity athlete, and not just at Tech, but at other schools, a coach might not be able to offer you a certain amount of money because they don't have the budget for it. But if you're good academically, that's another reason for them to want to take you.
Preach.
Just saying. So do well academically, take it seriously. If you want to sit there and coast and be the #1 League of Legends player in the world, more power to you. But I really, really, really hope that you're motivated academically, because if you're not, and you can't handle, the demands of being a student athlete, and this again isn't just at Tech, but especially at Tech, where we have very good academic programs, you won't make it at a lot of schools.
And take it from me, I'll tell you right now, I coasted through high school. I was concentrated on athletics, and then you get to college, and I went to D3, so there's no athletic scholarships for me. And then you pay for it down the road. Kids, do well in school. Do it.
There you go. There you
go. Learning from experience, and I hope no one gets the experience that I had. Are there any, we already did that question. What are your goals for Tech in the next 5 years? We did that question too. How do your esports playing out, how do you see esports playing out in the next 5 to 10 years? Now, I mentioned this earlier briefly because obviously the NCAA is not affiliated with esports just yet, but cap esports with NCAA in the next few years, and things change dramatically, really, because right now esports is the wild, wild west. Like you said before, especially with club teams, and there's really no governing over there because there's hacks and people cheating, and it's like, what's going on? Like you said, you have to have a good league, a reputable league. How do you see esports playing out in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I really think it's going to be on us, those of us who are in esports right now, to set the tone going forward. So right now, as esports administrators, coaches, players, we need to do a better job educating people who aren't in esports about esports, what it takes to be in esports, why you shouldn't be scared if your kid wants to play games. Now, there are differences between playing 12 hours a day, not eating, not sleeping, not doing homework. That is clearly a problem.
Yeah.
But the kid that maybe wants to play with his online friends wants to do that, maybe instead of going to a get together.
All right.
Like, they're communicating, they're socializing. Like, let them harvest the passion that they have, because by squelching it, you're potentially squelching a really good opportunity for them as as a player. But anyway, so down the line, I think if we are able to do better as educators and setting a higher standard for students, especially in collegiate, I really think that as much as it's exploded now, it's going to be even more so. And I think the NCAA is, and I can understand, right? Like you said, it's the Wild West.
Yep.
Esports has not been seen, nor is as respected. And I don't know if you guys, I'm quoting right now,
quotes.
As a traditional sport. And that's fair. We haven't done a good job necessarily justifying the fact that we should be.
Right.
There aren't a lot of studies that have studied esports as a sport and looked at physiological, mental, like there's more. There has been a lot in the last, couple years, because it's a necessity. But with all of this research that needs to be done and people trying it out and seeing what works, like that's what's going to push esports forward. So I really think that the NCAA is going to need to get on the bandwagon, or there's going to be an org like NACE is a perfect example of saying, we're willing to say esports is valid. We want to support the esports community as a whole in collegiate. And they may miss out on an opportunity. It's something that people are very scared of is change, and it's not a football. It's not a baseball. It doesn't look like those sports. And so you have to make those parallels and show them the data. That's what's going to help them make decisions. So I really think that if we do our job, it'll, I think, segue into becoming a more established sport, and we won't have that traditional designation as we do now. But I also think from the realm of individuals, I'd like to think moving forward that people are going to be a lot more accepting of the esports community. I think within the esports community, I would like to hope that we don't see, what's going on at Blizzard. And if you haven't, I don't want to, necessarily drag this down, but it is an important issue. And if you aren't familiar with it, look it up. But
the toxic work environments that are, and I've heard it's not only Blizzard, I've heard Riot, I've heard many that way. And obviously that has to be chunked out, because that is a negative spotlight, and that's what, and we all know it well, that negativity really can be louder than positivity. And we know from the trolls and from the negativity that has, or the toxicity that can be in esports, yes, it yells really loud because esports is very big, but the positivity outweighs the negativity, and that's what we need to get to the light. But the Blizzard and the Riot things and all of that's happening right now, that needs to be squelched and taken care of right now and handled the correct way, because within 5 to 10 years, this is something that is right now, it is, I don't even want to say it's in infancy. Like, this is still literally being developed, if you will. But 5 to 10 years is a big stepping stone for esports, and that needs to take the right steps, the right education, like you said, and be dealt with the right way in order for it to be respected and do what it's got to do. Now,
we need to do better. We need to do better on the esports side, but for those of you not in the esports field, open your mind. Just hear us out. Hear us out. And you can be neutral on it. Just respect the kids, respect my players, respect what they do.
Yeah.
That's all I ask. You don't have to love them. You don't have to be a gamer. You don't have to be a huge fanatic, but support your kids, support the players, and support what they're doing.
Amen.
That's my end all be all. That's my end all be all of that.
End all be all. No, I love it. And that ends the question portion. I think we nailed it. If there's anything else you want to, get off the top of your brain, I mean, more than welcome, but I think we nailed the questions there.
No, I don't. I do want to reiterate that I think a lot of people, if you haven't heard of Jane McGonigal's Reality is Broken book about why people love games, why games are so good, you should read it. There's a lot of different reasons why people love virtual environments and being a part of that, and killing a boss or saving a girl, or being personified as an elf with powers and you're defeating an oppressive boss, or whatever it is. There's a reason why people like doing it,
right?
Like any other activity. So do a little bit of research before you make judgments, but also recognize that this is a young sport. You really don't see 50-year-old, 45-year-old pros in this field. It is a young sport. We have 13, 14-year-olds all the way up till I don't even know, 20, maybe it feels like 26, 27. That's old. So these players and kids, they're kids. They're developing mentally, physically, emotionally, professionally, and they're put into these high pressure situations. So mental health is a big thing. So if you're an administrator, a coach, a parent, and this is a huge topic that you need to pay attention to.
Very big.
You really need to keep it as a priority for you, because a lot of these kids are, they're oppressed because people don't like their sport. They're oppressed because of the stereotypes. If you're a minority or a female, heaven forbid you open up voice chat, you're gonna, it's not a fun time. So just do better, be better, and keep in mind that actions have mental health consequences. So
Very
take care
much
of your
so.
mental health.
Do
That's
it.
all I'm gonna add to that.
She
the
did it.
importance of that, and go Huskies. That's very
And go Huskies. Oh, yeah. No, 100% nailed it. I agree with everything she just said there, and you see it way too often, especially with chats and females and not respected as gamers, and they're some of the best gamers out there. And that's why some of the organizations that I have had on the podcast, they have She Is sponsorships, which is amazing. Some of the female pro teams are unreal. Like, and the thing is, do not doubt them because they will put you in your place. I have played some of them, and it's no joke. And next to age, you've said, like you said, 20. Hey, I was 32 as a pro. Okay.
See,
And
old dead man
guy,
walking.
boomer. Yeah, I was boomer.
And he was good. Dead man walking, and he was good.
I was at the Seattle event, the first Fortnite event in Seattle, and yeah, let's just say I felt like dad with 100 some odd kids trailing me. It was very odd, but then I got to meet Dr. Lupo, and he was at the time 30, so I was like, hey, someone at least that's close to my age, but yeah, that's why I hung up the controller, kids, because 14, 15, 16-year-old Aidens were just so much better than me. So we have concluded the question part. Let's get to the fun game part here that we like to do. These fun games are always a kick just to see what we have shaken in our rigs or consoles, and then also the 10 question rapid fire that will not ruin our friendship, I promise you. But let's go. What's your rig first? And you said you started with a MacBook, but obviously you've upgraded.
Yep.
So let's talk about what's in your rig. Obviously PC, but what do you have in your PC?
Yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I'm sure if any of my players hear this, they're gonna throw me out. But so I had an Alienware pre-built with a 1080 Ti,
nice,
an Intel i7 8700. So
that's still a good chip.
It's nice, but I am trying to move towards a custom build.
And a 1080 Ti is no joke. That's still a good card.
It's definitely
still to
good.
This day, a good
All
card.
of my peripherals are Corsair. I love Corsair. I'm wearing a
nice.
HyperX headset because that's what we have in the facility. But Corsair is my favorite. I don't like click.
Oh,
that's the most irritating thing in the world.
It really is.
I will take my Strafe as what I have. I have an M65 Pro. I also have another mouse for when I play WoW.
Yep, you gotta have it. You gotta have a different mouse for those. Like, does it have like the 16 side buttons?
It does, but I'm a healer, so
there you go.
It's kind of like
I had one of those mice for H1Z1. I didn't know the differences in the mice when I started PC gaming, and I was like, oh man, look, it's got all these buttons on the side. I'm gonna use it. So I had everything for my battle royale on the side buttons, and it actually worked well until I got to Fortnite, and I was like, dude, I can't build with this. Like, what the hell?
I mean, this is my office, but I have like melee and reload set to like the side buttons. That's all I need for most shooters, and your scroll wheel is switching between weapons. So I'm a pretty low maintenance gamer, but
nailed it. Perfect. Now we move on to the awesome, always fun. 10 rapid fire questions. I had to grab my notepad. I've changed up some of these questions because I've gone through 10 of these podcasts, and I was like, man, somebody's going to hear these questions and start thinking about them, so we've changed them a little bit. But
I have, so I don't know what's coming, so I'm scared.
Don't be worried. Don't be scared.
How long do I have to answer?
I started this off as like a minute, but the problem was everybody always has to defend their answers or explain their answers if they feel like it's not a good answer. So we just going. Okay. So don't worry.
Okay. All right. I'll be quick. I'll be quick and concise.
All right. So number 1, favorite platform / console.
PC.
Yeah.
Obviously.
There you go.
I mean, I love the Persona series, which is on PlayStation, and I also love Dark Souls and Bloodborne.
Right.
So I have console games that I do enjoy, but and then the OGs. Obviously, everyone loves the N64, and
I think you're the
Super
first person to
Nintendo
say PC. Even through like some of the pro players that I've had, a lot of people go back to like Xbox or 360 or 64, but you said PC.
I like there's more avenue for communication. I've met some of
the best people in the world.
The best people through PC. So there you go. There's my short answer.
Favorite game?
Here's the Storm.
There it is.
Obviously.
Wow.
Yeah. And if anybody's out there and says it's a dead MOBA, that's fine. But
guess what? It's not dead because she plays it.
We love it. We love it, and the devs love it. And
guess what? Devs probably treat their community with respect.
And we have more than one map, and all the characters except like 3 are from the Blizzard universe, which is really cool. And no other game does that. So just saying, it's cool. So check it out. Give it a try. It's not as toxic as other MOBAs, but give it a try. It's my favorite game for sure.
Go-to snack while in a session.
I actually don't snack a lot.
I don't either.
I tend to forget to eat. That's not really good to say out loud, but I said it anyway. I have to set an alarm on my phone, which is something you should do. I love celery, like celery, carrots, and cucumbers with like ranch.
Veggies.
Yes. But I love mac and cheese, and it's not really a snack, but like anything can be a snack.
Yeah,
if
that's
you
true.
Hard enough.
That's true. 100%. Because I do pizza rolls. Pizza rolls aren't exactly a snack; it's a meal.
Oh, mozzarella sticks are good too. Okay, you can't ask these questions. Then I'm just gonna start spitting out comfort.
She's getting hungry now.
I am actually really hungry.
Favorite TV show / movie?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Law and Order, Law and Order SVU was my favorite for a long time. NCIS was really good. So those are shows, obviously.
Right. Not bad shows. They're still on.
They are. Yeah, movie's a tough one. I'm not a huge like movie or TV person, which sounds really bad. I mean, Miracle.
Oh, there you go.
That's one of my all-time favorite movies.
That is a good movie. It's just a good story in general.
Yes. No, I agree. I like Game of Thrones up until like season 4.
Never got into it.
Yeah, it's really slow. I would say those. Yeah, I'm not really a movie person. Now, if we're talking cartoons and anime,
yeah,
Sailor Moon and My Hero Academia.
I mean, Matchroom did the same thing. He said anime. So there you go. There you go. Nailed it.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Did you see the trailer that was released today for Star Wars Visions?
I did not.
It's an anime, Star Wars.
Oh,
there you go.
I did not.
Check it out. You have to look. Disney Plus.
Maybe I should.
Favorite guilty pleasure?
Does gaming count?
I mean, sure. Why not?
Yeah. If it's not gaming, do I have other hobbies? No, I'm just kidding.
You did play softball.
I did. No, I love sports.
Wasn't there rugby in there too?
Rugby. Yeah, I played softball and rugby in college. I played softball, basketball, and volleyball in high school.
So, like, to give you an idea, for me right now, because I am not a huge pop music guy, but I just got turned on to the new Justin Bieber and Kid Laroi song, Stay. Oh my gosh, that thing is a banger. Even though I really hate a lot of pop music landscape, that's a banger.
I'm not a huge music. I love soundtrack. Soundtrack is pretty good. I like Daughtry and 3 Doors Down were like kind of my.
That's your jam.
Sort of See, now I'm starting to think like what. I mean, I don't know. I like going to sporting events, but I wouldn't say that's a guilty pleasure. I'm embarrassed to say that I've watched like Temptation Island. That was like
there you go. That's a guilty pleasure.
Weird, yeah, but it's embarrassing.
See, like we watch Big Brother on the regular. Big Brother is a guilty
Big Brother's
pleasure.
good though. Big Brother's good though.
Yeah, but it's also a guilty pleasure.
True. All right. I will say it with pride. I have watched Temptation Island.
There you go.
There you go.
All right. Favorite pro team of a traditional sport? Detroit Red Wings.
Red Wings.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the only good Detroit team.
That's true. You're not wrong.
I do love
years.
the Tigers.
I do
love baseball, but yes, I would.
I mean, there's nothing better than going to Comerica on a nice summer day, having a beer and watching the boys play. But the problem is, obviously, they haven't been good lately, so it's tougher to do. But it's still good to go to Comerica. But
listen,
the Red Wings.
Brandon Inge was my favorite player And I
My wife's
remember
too.
when they were in the World Series, and God, I don't even know. And we watched it in science class because, when has the Tigers ever been in the World Series? And I
Right.
was like, that's Brandon Inge. And then everyone gave me crap for it. So
Gee, I wonder why the ladies liked Brandon Inge.
he's a good player, one of the best third basemen.
Yeah, good player. Not that he didn't look good.
I mean, listen, if you happen to be attractive and take care of your body and look young for your age, then you know what? That's a bonus.
Brandon Inge was a good third base, but yeah, he was a darn good looking guy. I'm not gonna lie. First car.
Buick Rendezvous was
nice.
Cappuccino. Yeah, that car.
Cappuccino.
It was cappuccino covered, and then the second one I got was navy. And I will say, any parents out there that are looking for a good first car, a used car, Buick Rendezvous. I had a girl who was on my softball team who was doing makeup and drinking coffee in the car. She rolled her car 4 times. Jeez. The only thing that broke were the windows, and the safety frame and everything was 100% intact.
Wow.
Very safe and very good car.
It's a tank.
It is.
Now that you're the Huskies, cat or dog person?
I've actually never had a pet besides a goldfish that I won at the state fair, and it lived for like 12 years afterwards and is now in my grandfather's Dennis fish tank.
What? That is the coolest thing ever. You've never had a cat and dog, but you've had a goldfish that's lived over 12 years.
Yes, that I won at the state fair. Yes.
Wow, yes. That fish is like that fish says, "Man, you saved my life. Thank you."
Yeah. Oh, well, when I won another fish at the state fair a couple of years later and I put it in the same tank, it actually ate that fish.
Oh. My mom, don't touch her.
Yeah, no, literally it was this big. I kid you not. And it is still alive in my grandfather's Dennis fish tank.
That's funny.
But I mean, kittens and dogs are very cute. I know my parents hate cats, but I think they're really cute.
Cat.
But I do love dogs. No, I love them both.
Okay, she's both.
But seals are my favorite animal. White
seals? Nice.
Yes, they're cute.
All right, so this one's out of left field. Would you rather be attacked by one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? The concentration on your face right now is great. One
horse-sized duck, and here is why. Because I firmly believe in the mass of many. Attack and okay, I play Blood Bowl, and I don't know if anybody is familiar with Blood Bowl. It's like Warhammer, but like it's football. I don't know. It was a board game or whatever. But when you have like people that don't have a lot of strength and you surround a big guy and you just like take him down, I firmly believe in that, and I like that. Right. It gives me the Miracle on Ice vibes.
Yeah.
So I think I could take down a big duck. I would probably tame it, although typically my animal wrangling or whatever that stat is in D&D isn't very high normally. But I may be able to mind control it or something.
Or you could maybe climb a tree and get away from the 100 ducks.
I could, but that's kind of cheating.
It's not strategery or anything.
I mean, people underestimate animals. Their brilliance in mass is truly underestimated.
It's true.
If you've ever watched any documentaries on ants,
you're gonna go with one horse-sized duck.
Yes,
that's a big duck.
Yes,
quack quack,
and that's okay.
Quack
and
quack
it shall
quack,
be my
Mr.
duck.
Ducksworth. It should be my duck, and
he shall be my bodyguard.
And his name will be
Duck.
Duck. Okay, Mr. Duck. Number 10. Anywhere in the world, where are you going, Kaitlyn?
Japan. I've been to Japan actually.
Love it.
Was amazing. I would, if I could move there, I would. Beautiful country. People are so nice. Always on the go. It's clean. It's beautiful. There's so much to do there. The food is delicious.
I've always heard that, and I have a buddy that lives in Tokyo, and he says, obviously he misses his family in New York, but he's like, I don't want to go anywhere else. Like if I had to, I'd move home for family, but he's like, this is just an amazing place. Who did I just have on? I think it was Coach Rob from Siena, and he also said Japan. So that's back-to-back Japan answers.
I mean, it's relatively inexpensive. It's a very safe country.
Yeah.
And this is a woman walking down the streets of Tokyo and Shibuya. Well, I had my boyfriend at the time with me, but I felt safe. I didn't have to be on a swivel the whole time.
Right. I get that.
It was beautiful. Mount Fuji tour was $100 for an entire day.
That's
and
awesome.
All of the surrounding cities. So 10 out of 10 would recommend. Beautiful country. I've been to Europe too. Europe is
history rich.
Yeah.
So
yes.
With that, your trip to Japan, possibly in the future again, Kaitlyn, you are off the hot seat. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. You have been nothing but amazing, and I thank you for your expertise and all the information, and of course all your wisdom with esports. And I hope you guys nothing but the best with the upcoming season. And of course we'll be in touch. I might have to make a trip up to see some events or just see tech in general. Obviously, Northland's not too far away, my old stomping grounds. So
there you go.
But thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you again for being here. And we love having you on the 1UP XP show, and we'll have you back shortly. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will have another podcast coming up here shortly. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune into it on View It. You can watch the video portion here, or you can catch it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and we'll have another episode for you. Thank you again, Kaitlyn.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.